Hi, and welcome to Focus on Hope. I'm Eve Moffat, I'm your host, and we have with us Ron from Verde Hearing Solutions. Hi, Ron.
Hi, Eve. How are you doing today?
Pleasure to have you
Yeah,
here.
I'm very happy you had me here.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I graduated from the University of Wisconsin and I completed three majors: psychology, sociology, and social welfare. So, what did I do most of my life for a living? I sold insurance and investments. But about 13 years ago, I learned a little bit about the hearing aid business and I decided that's where I wanted to go. And when I moved out to Arizona, that's when I really got into it a lot with major companies, retail companies.
How long have you been in Arizona?
11 years now. We moved from Milwaukee to Yuma, so we went from the icebox to the frying pan. Me and my wife.
Your wife, okay. Tell me about the different kinds of hearing aids.
Okay. Well, to tell you the truth, when they started out with hearing aids, and I know you were telling me about the real big kind that your son had to start with, the first hearing aid, believe it or not, electronically, was this here. It was a great big horn that they had to grind, okay, and to hear the sound. And then the first binaural, both ears, was this one here. So
Wow.
obviously, there's been a lot of progress in development and technology since.
Yes.
One of my friends who helped me into the business, he's on the board certification of hearing aid dispensers. He actually, when he started and left Wisconsin in the 70s, the hearing aids were kind of big.
Well,
And
like how big?
well, well, they would either fit in your whole ear, take up your whole ear, and it had three transistors in it. Now they're in a typical hearing aid, there's 40 million transistors in there.
Wow.
And they actually operate 200 million processes a second. That's kind of why
It's
they,
hard to imagine.
I know. You have to be a computer
Yes.
guy to
Yeah.
understand. I don't understand that. But, the differences are just really big.
Yeah. Um, Tell me about the hearing aids.
Okay, well, maybe you don't even know this, but I'm wearing a hearing aid right here.
I
And
didn't know.
and one on this side too. And that's about 80% of the people nowadays are wearing what they call these opens here. Okay, and they are small, and you just put them here and you just kind of hide them behind your ear.
Yeah.
You can hear.
I can't see it.
Yeah, you can't. So, I'm a little modest, just like a lot of people are. They also have very tiny ones like this that fit way down in the canal where you can't even see it.
I can't see it.
Yeah, way, way down.
Yes.
Matter of fact, you have to have a little pull tab to even get it out.
Oh, wow.
Traditionally, though, a lot of people still have the kind in the ear here. People that have had them a long time,
Yes.
kind of like that. But you have bigger ones for more power and smaller ones for more mild loss. So there are a variety of shapes and sizes for people to pick, along with an array of different colors to either match their hair or their skin. Even beige, there's like 3 or 4 different shades of beige just to whether somebody's tan or not or whatever.
Oh, wow. Now, depends on your amount of hearing that you have, amount of hearing loss you have,
Right,
as to
correct.
what kind of hearing aid you'll
Correct.
get.
I do have to test the people first. I explain what I'm doing ahead of time. And then when I come up with a chart at the amount of hearing loss that they have, I also measure their ear and their canal and what size that might all be, because that can also dictate maybe even what company I get versus what size and shape and how much power it has.
So they're personalized.
Definitely. But more personalized to their hearing loss. That's the most important thing.
Oh, wow. Tell me about why most people a lot of people don't want to wear hearing aids. Why?
Well, they think of great grandpa who had a big thing sticking out of his ear, and they think, well, if somebody looks at me and they see that, they're going to think I'm old. But then again, well, what do they think People think of them when they keep saying, huh, what did you say? And laughing at a joke that wasn't told, and all these other things, and having so many family members being mad at them because they're not doing anything about their hearing.
Yeah. Um, People feel that it makes you feel old, you know?
Right.
Well, I don't understand.
Well, more and more people are getting hearing aids now, mainly because they are a lot more cosmetic than they used to be, and they do a lot more. They're not just amplifiers anymore.
Most people that get them, they see an improvement in their quality of life.
Oh, they certainly do, because it helps them in relationships, in their family, understanding TV, feeling that they're part of their environment. It also helps people with in their work. A lot of the people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that have a hearing loss, a lot of times they're passed up for promotions, or if they're in a sales situation and they don't hear what questions are asked and they give the wrong answers and those types of things, it can affect their earning potential.
Now, non-wearers experience depression and isolation.
Right, right. They can earning power, communication and relationships, intimacy, ease in communication, emotional stability, sense of control even over life events, perceptions of mental functioning. A lot of people in the medical community think people have dementia instead of hearing loss when they really do. But I'll tell you another thing too, that they now know with studies that a lot of dementia is onset because people have a hearing loss and they don't do anything about it.
Explain that.
Well, um, when you see somebody not understanding what you're doing, what you're saying,
Yes.
and they can't repeat what you're doing, and there's a lot of tests that medical people will do to see if a person has dementia or not. A lot of those symptoms are very similar to hearing loss, but as these people, as dementia is increasing along with hearing loss, it'll increase a lot faster. And when you put the two together, you really have dynamite there. Because
Wow.
the symptoms are so similar, and they just both take off. And it also has a lot to do with balance too. It helps knowing where you're at spatially, and hearing your feet move, and directionality, and all those types of things.
What are some of the signs of hearing loss?
Well, some of them are asking people to repeat, turning the TV way up, taking things the wrong way, repeating things that weren't said, filling in the blanks, trying to read lips. And those are just a few of them.
Yeah. Now, the hearing aids they amplify soft sounds, and they reduce loud sounds.
Yeah, some people think if they get a hearing aid and they hear loud noises, they're going to be terribly loud. Well, they're not, because there's compression in there. As you get louder and louder, the hearing aid will compress, so loud sounds can only be so loud. So you're actually safer wearing hearing aids with loud noises around.
Oh,
than
you
without.
are?
Yes, you are. And the other thing too is soft sounds. I'll say, "Can you hear me talking now?" And they can hear you just with soft sounds, medium sounds, and loud sounds. And the hearing aids adjust all of those things.
Wow, they
Automatic.
really have improved in
Oh, they
20
sure have.
years. Wow. Yet 1 in 5 use them.
That need hearing loss.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Funny thing about that is men usually wait almost 7 years before doing anything about their hearing loss, and women typically wait about 5 years. But it is called, what would you call it? Well, too many people wait too long because they're just not aware that the hearing loss is happening to them. It's slow.
It's slow.
It's a disability of denial is what it is. So it progresses so slowly that people say, well, if they would only talk louder and quit talking so fast and talk more clearly and let me turn the TV up and blah, 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 then, things would just be fine. But the world is not that way.
No, no, no. What causes hearing loss?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why. One of them, the biggest one is probably noise exposure. And we see that more in men because of military and maybe hunting and shooting guns and motors, engines, trucks, et cetera, et cetera. And they usually lose it more in the high area where the consonants are. So they say, people mumble. Well, they can't hear the consonants, so they're not really hearing the words. And then in women, usually I see more of a genetic loss. I actually, like my wife, for example, she's been wearing hearing aids for 20 years, and there can be a genetic influence. And I always ask, was there any hearing loss in your family, like genetically, your siblings or parents? And then I say the example of my wife, for example, her mother had hearing loss, and her grandmother before her, and it probably goes all the way back to Eve. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Other reasons are head trauma. Some people have that. Now, there's also ototoxic drugs. Some doctor may give a person a strong antibiotic to save their life, but they're not going to say, well, by the way, you'll probably lose some hearing and more later because of it. And there are ototoxic drugs, especially things like for diabetes and different things. There's also childhood diseases, measles, mumps, chicken
Yes.
pox, and all
Yes.
that. Now, one of the last clients I just gave a hearing aid to, measles when he was in his teens.
Yes.
He has a dead ear here.
Yes.
And he's got severe hearing.
Yes.
And that's why everybody, in my opinion, should be vaccinated.
Yes. Yes. Now, when you're wearing hearing aids, there's a problem with wax clogging. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Well, the first thing I do is give an otoscopic exam, and it shows your ear and your ear canal right on the television that I have. It's an otoscopic. And the first thing I do is check if there's wax in there. And if there is some, I can get it out. Or there might be some foreign object. That's kind of rare, but sometimes there is. And then I take the wax out. Now, if they do get hearing aids with me, they gotta have to have a clear ear canal for the hearing aid to operate good. So there's ear wax removal kits. Plus, I also go in there and take the wax out of their ears when they come up for subsequent visits.
Oh, okay. Now, people have to have subsequent visits?
Well, what I do when I first issue the hearing aids to them, they come back in about a week and for the delivery after the test, and it takes about an hour. Then 1 week after that, 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, and then I like to see people at least twice a year. And that's free lifetime service.
I see you're busy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And Ron, you have some charts.
Yes, I do.
Explain the charts to us.
Okay. The first chart I'd like to show is how I do test people. Okay. And first, I did say that I asked them some questions that take a history, and then I explain how I'm going to test. And this is an audiogram.
Okay.
And what I do is I test all these different frequencies or pitches, anywhere from bass all the way through higher shrill, okay? And I test those in decibels of sound, and the higher the number this way is the higher the number in decibels of sound
Okay.
that I may have to put in, and I'll plot where the person responds, okay? Now, obviously, they'll have good hearing. This is just showing some symbols. If they can hear leaves rustling or little birds chirping or water dripping or a clock ticking. But as we go down farther, if they can't hear a baby crying or a vacuum cleaner, they got pretty poor hearing. Just think, though, if they can't hear a telephone and a piano or a motorcycle. Now, jet engines and guns, these areas here actually do a lot of harm to our hearing. if you hear them over time, okay? But anyway, I plot where the person responds to the test that I give, so then I would know how to set the hearing aids. And a lot of men, remember I was saying that they lose a lot of hearing here in the vowels? If you ever watched Wheel of Fortune, if Anna puts a lot of vowels up there, it helps you. You can hear vowels, but she has to put the consonants.
Consonants,
You have to hear
yes.
the consonants.
Yes.
And consonants, like the letter P, is really, it's not P-E-E, it's P, and they're hard to hear. Especially males don't hear that. And we're actually 4,000 hertz human beings, because that's where babies are and that's where women's voices are. So it's important to hear in that area. But anyway, I chart that, and then I do a lot of speech recognition.
Speech recognition,
Word
meaning?
recognitions. We play, I find a comfortable level, and then I play at their comfortable level. They have to repeat at least 25 words each ear. And some of them do pretty good with amplification, but some of them are actually down, to only 70, maybe even 60%. And then they got some recovering to do and some rehabilitation to adopt those hearing aids to get that back to hopefully 80, 90%.
Oh, wow.
So that's, I do explain that to people before I test them, and then of course I go over the results and make a recommendation and company, sizes. I have 3 companies. I have Phonak, Unitron, and Siemens. But recently, because of retirements in the area and people leaving, I also took on Cebotech, and that's an extra company that I have, because otherwise people in the area wouldn't have had anybody to go to.
Okay.
So I'm trying to help out who I can.
Okay.
The other chart, if you wanted me to show you, is actually how the ears work.
Yes.
And I explain this to people too after their test. All
Okay.
right? So acoustic energy, which we call sound waves, goes through the ear, and that's energy. We talk in terms of energy. Acoustic energy starts vibrating the eardrum.
Okay.
At that point, it becomes mechanical energy, and it goes through the 3 bones in your middle ear, smallest bones in our body. And that mechanical energy starts vibrating your oval window going into your inner ear, which we call the cochlea. Now there's fluid in there, perilymphatic fluid. It's also shared with our semicircular canals for balance. That's also why I ask a balance questions. And sometimes people have poor balance because the fluid in there isn't properly, and they have otoliths that may not be, they have to see a doctor about that. Sometimes I even send people to doctors, okay, to get things cleared up. Now that's because there's fluid in there, now we call that hydraulic energy. And that hydraulic fluid motion tickles 25 to 30, or more like 16,000 hair cells that go up your 8th cranial nerve. Now we have electrical energy that goes up to your brain. So this here goes up to your cochlear nucleus, which is in your temporal lobe, okay? So together, these 2 temporal lobes, that's where we process words and sounds. And when they're stimulated, it invites the rest of the brain to participate in making sense out of what we're hearing.
Okay.
One side of the brain interprets speech different than the other side, and I'll explain what I mean. The left brain is used for logic, analysis, sequencing, linear, mathematics, and so on. The right side of the brain is for creativity, imagination, holistic thinking, intuition, etc. So we really have 6 ears. We have 2 outer, 2 middle, 2 inner, and what's just as important is the area of the brain where we process words and sounds. And that's why people need 2 hearing aids too, because you want to use both sides of your brain.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So that's what I do explain to people as far as the chart, and then how I do test and go over the results when I'm done.
How long does the test last?
I can do a test in about 20, 25 minutes, just the actual test itself. There is some explaining beforehand, and then there's going over the results afterwards. We quite often ask for the third party to come in, the spouse or maybe the daughter or somebody, because I do demonstrate hearing aids after this. I have many demonstration hearing aid sizes and shapes, and I will try to program them to what they need, and then we'll demonstrate them and let the third party talk. We might go outside and walk around and talk with those hearing aids or whatever, and then we go over the price ranges and the sizes and shapes, and then they choose what they want to do, and then we order them.
Oh, what's the 3-minute hearing test?
3 minute. Well, sometimes we do, and doctors do this in their office. They just do what's called an airborne test. They test 4 of the hertz areas, usually 500, 1,000, 2,000 hertz, and 4,000, just to get an idea how bad their hearing is,
Yes.
if it is at all. So. We're going to be going around talking to some of the doctors in the area, let them know what we're doing, and helping them give a test, one of what you're talking about, the 2-minute test, so that if there's a problem there, they should send them to
Yes.
somebody to
Yes.
take care of it.
Yes. You provide hearing aids to children?
No, I don't. Hearing aid dispensers are 18 and over. You know, and I'm board certified, by the way. So we're really the adult population. And the ones that handle the children, though, those are audiologists.
Okay.
And actually, quite frankly, I don't want to do children, actually. I'm so much into the older population that, certain occupations will take age ranges and other ones won't.
Yeah. Tell me some success stories.
Well, when I moved up from Yuma to here, and that was about 9 years ago, the first person that I tested, and he had lost a lot of the area where the high parts are,
Yes.
where the consonants are. He didn't hear birds for over 30 years. 30 years. And he walked out, and it just so happened there was a lot of songbirds and cackling and singing. And he walked outside and he looked around like this, and tears were just coming down his eyes. And his name was Frank. I remember his name. And that was one success story. Just other ones are people are just amazed. They come in because sometimes the wife drags them in. You're going to have this hearing test. I'm not going to put up this foot anymore. And they may get them because of a third party, the spouse or the kids aren't nagging them or whatever. And then they go out in the real world and they say, hey, hearing is pretty nice. I can hear my buddies. I can hear the waitress in the restaurant and all these conversations and everything, and people aren't laughing at me for saying something that
Inappropriate. Yes.
or whatever. So there's really, when people come back after wearing them for a week, they're so happy. They really are. So I mean, they're almost all success stories if you want to look at it that way.
I remember, I was telling you that my son has worn
Yeah.
hearing aids since he was 4, and I remember the first time we walked out of the office, the hearing aid office, and his face just lit up, light,
I know.
and he just hugged me so. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they've shown even on TV where they put a cochlear implant into people that have never heard before. See, I have to refer people to doctors if I see something like, balance problems or something blocking the ear, or if it's hard to explain, but if there's an airborne gap, it might point to a tumor. So I have to really send people off. But I also send people to, for cochlear implants, the only closest place that I know is down in Phoenix. But they did show on TV where people have never heard a sound before in their life. And they put a cochlear implant in, and all of a sudden they could hear their mother or somebody talking, and there's just tears flowing.
Yes.
It's just amazing.
Wow.
It's just amazing.
This is really a gift that you give to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I tell you about Helen Keller?
Yes.
Well, Helen Keller, myself, because I've been around for so many I'm getting older and I've had a lot of life experiences. And if I all of a sudden lost my vision and my hearing, what would I want back? I would say I would probably want my vision because I could look at pictures and people I knew and maps and keep doing things. But Helen Keller, who never heard or saw, actually, she said if she had the choice, she would take hearing. She would take that because as far as vision goes, you lose contact with objects, but if you can't hear, you lose contact with people, and that would have been more important to her.
Wow. So much information. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Okay.
Ron, thank you so much.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. This has been another episode of Focus on Hope, and we'll see you next week.